In a changing landscape, how do you know which improvement opportunities should receive more or less attention? If you cost the company more than you're contributing to it, then your job is at risk. Now the question is, what sort of things should you work on that actually do add the most value? Welcome from beautiful Boulder, Colorado, to the second video in the three-part series, The Three Big Threats. I'm Richard Rahn with the Leonardo Group. And before we get into the subject of this video, let's review briefly what I discussed last time, the threat of automation in potentially replacing your job. A report by Deloitte Consulting that was published last year forecasted almost 50% of the jobs in the US today are at risk of being replaced by computer software and hardware over the next 20 years. Engineering jobs were lower risk, but keep in mind that we're on the cusp of an explosion in computer technology. If a computer can beat the best in the world at chess, then chances are really good that at least a part of what you do can be automated also, right? So the question isn't really if some of your responsibilities will become automated, but which ones? In a changing landscape, how do you know which improvement opportunities should receive more or less attention? To answer these questions, let's first take a look at which activities are value-adding and which are not so much. Now, it might seem kind of harsh to say this, but companies are in business to make money. And that's not the only reason we hope, but if a company isn't profitable, then any other goals will be very hard to accomplish. And we already said, if your job or a part of your job can be automated for less money, then that's what's going to happen. But even aside from the automation threat, if you cost the company more than you're contributing to it, then your job is at risk. Eventually, someone is going to notice. On the other hand, if you're a strong contributor, then your job security is stronger. Nothing's guaranteed, of course, but when the pink slips are handed out, chances are you won't get one if you're consistently adding value over and above your cost. Now, nothing I've said so far should be surprising to you, but let's dig deeper and look at the concept of value, quote unquote, from a lean perspective. You're already familiar with the term value adding or value added. And maybe you've also been exposed to a formal definition of the word value, like this. Value is what the customer is willing to pay for. Or another definition is value adding work steps advance the product to its point of completion. So strictly speaking, very strictly speaking, unless the product is being transformed, you're not adding value directly to the product. But that's too strict a definition for our purposes here. Let's go with the customer-centric definition, keeping in mind that the customer, in most cases for you, is not an external customer, but more likely an internal one like your boss, or even your boss's boss. As an engineer, you're probably not building a product directly. But as we'll see, for you, the opportunities to add value to the system are unique and they're huge. The word Kaizen comes to mind, continuous improvement. And you probably have a sense that contributing to improvement is considered valuable. There are two kinds of Kaizen. First, there is Kaizen as a suggestion system that everyone can participate in. This is sometimes called quick and easy Kaizen. Small improvements suggested by anyone that are easy to think up and easy to do. For a great introduction to this approach, see Norman Bodek's book, The Idea Generator. Some companies that we know get thousands of small suggestions a year. And most of the ideas can be approved and implemented pretty easily because they're small. In the previous video, I referred to this type of Kaizen as a function that cannot be automated because it's real-time and it's conducted at the shop floor level. But here's the rub, and here's where you come in as a lean improvement specialist or a Kaizen engineer. The shocking, well, at least for me, when I first learned about this, is that small ideas don't really move the bottom line very much. Yes, there is a financial benefit. Yes, this is something you'll want to do, but don't expect big bottom line benefits to come out of small suggestions, even if you get a lot of them. Now, at Toyota, for example, the Quick and Easy Kaizen program, they don't call it that, is used for two things: to build and strengthen a culture of continuous improvement, and number two, to identify potential candidates for promotion within the ranks. The financial gain is somewhere down the list in terms of importance. Now, in 2004, Professor Koichi Shimizu Okayama University, published a paper on continuous improvement of production processes at Toyota. And by the way, this is documented in the book Toyota Kata, highly recommended. He was looking at realized productivity improvements and cost reduction in two categories. Projects done as part of a quick and easy Kaizen suggestion system first, and projects done by engineers and supervisors as part of their regular jobs, the second kind of Kaizen. His finding is that 90% of the realized benefits came from the latter, from engineers and supervisors, and only 10% from the suggestion system. Now, this was a surprise to me. I'd always thought that the quick and easy percentage was much higher, more like 30% or more. Now, let me repeat, just because an idea is small doesn't mean that it's not worth doing or not important, but it does shine a light on the importance of the 90%, led by folks like you. So your ability to make a difference, if you're a lean engineer or a lean manager, is very high compared with most other functions in your company. And that's good news. Back to our original theme, not adding enough value, you are enviably positioned to be able to do just that. So make yourself irreplaceable at the same time. Now, let me digress with a personal story. Now, I always thought of myself as being someone who was making an effort to improve my job function or department. And maybe I was just lazy in the sense that I was always looking for ways to do my job more efficiently with less effort. But as a result, I survived a Chapter 11 in my first quote-unquote real job when many of my coworkers were laid off, and I survived a major company downturn in the aerospace industry where our company ended up cutting 50% of its workforce. So I attribute my survival, in that case, to the Kaizen spirit. So if you're a Kaizen engineer or improvement specialist, your job should be reasonably secure since you're in a very strong position to add value to your company. So unless the entire company sinks, you're probably a keeper. Now the question is, what sort of things should you work on that actually do add the most value? Now, the Lean Toolkit is extensive. So let's analyze some of the tools from the perspective of adding value. We'll take the 3 bears classification strategy, high, medium, or low. And remember, just because I classify a lean tool as low doesn't mean that you don't do it or that it's not valuable. I'm going to make an assumption that you know what these tools are, but if this is something new to you, then write the term down and Google it. So first, number 1, value stream mapping, high, medium, or low. Well, this is a classic low, especially if that's all you do. It's an assessment, but if it doesn't lead to actual improvements or actual improvement projects, then you would have saved some time by not doing value stream mapping at all. Next example, 5S, organization and housekeeping. This is another classic low. You can make some assumptions about improved efficiency, but the category is hard to measure, although necessary. Some things are just value in themselves, like taking a bath. From a purely economic viewpoint, showering is a waste of soap and hot water, since you'll just need to do it again. But yet we take showers. Thank you. Next, visual workplace. This is a set of tools similar to 5S. Yes, you can make a case for improved efficiency, less waste, but it's a little hard to measure also. People will be more productive in a highly visual work environment, no doubt. But how much more? 10%? Double? Hard to know. I would still call this one low. Now here's another tool from the Lean Toolkit, Quick Changeover, or SMED. This tool has the potential for improving machine utilization and will also have a big impact on WIP inventory. So I would classify this one as medium or even high, kind of depending on how good or bad you are today. Now, here's why I'm going over this list with you. If you're spending your time as a lean specialist on Kaizen events focused on these tools, then you are actually putting your job at risk somewhat. I say that because it will be very difficult for management to associate your efforts with actual bottom line benefits. So here's a story for you. A major aerospace company, they embraced lean around the year 2000, and they went all out, gangbusters. The CEO delivered a keynote address that I attended a few years ago, where he claimed that within the first 3 years of their lean initiative, they conducted over 600 Kaizen events. And the problem was, when the management, meaning the CEO, looked at the P&L, looked at the balance sheet, These efforts were undetectable, invisible. They couldn't see the results of all this work by looking at the financial statements. And this was obviously a disappointment since they were spending some money on this effort. They were only able to bend the curve, that is, show tangible, recordable results when they refocused their efforts on what they were doing and also started engaging upper management more in the initiative. What are the big payback lean tools, you may ask? I'm glad you did. The two areas that will generate the most improvement, bottom line improvement, and have the highest leverage for your ability to add value, that's the subject of this video, remember, are number one, process design or process redesign, and number two, lean material management. The majority of the 90% of the benefits that I mentioned earlier, these come from process design and lean material management. Now, what are these? Well, process design, or more specifically, mixed model line design, if you have a mixed model environment, is the lean industrial engineering discipline of designing the optimum production environment. So optimum means a production line with a minimum MCT, that's manufacturing cycle time or manufacturing critical path time, minimum non-value added work or maximum efficiency, error proofing, and with optimum workflow, including line balancing. Now, the other one, lean material management. This refers to the design of an optimum material delivery system from supplier to point of use. Now, included in this discipline are designing delivery routes and establishing a pull method for most materials through the delivery system. The fastest way to free up working capital, floor space, and believe it or not, operator productivity is by optimizing your material delivery system. And the lean tools like 5S and Visual Factory are included in these efforts, and they need to be a part of them also. So let's go full circle. In order to make yourself irreplaceable and automation-proof yourself also, you need to add value to your company. And strangely enough, many of the lean methods that may occupy your time don't really add a lot of bottom line value. They need to be deployed within a larger objective, which is, number one, designing optimum production processes, and number two, designing material delivery systems. So before spending time and money on other projects, make sure that your core value-adding processes are as strong as you can possibly make them. So exactly how do you improve these processes? Like the second video of all great trilogies, I will leave you with a cliffhanger. The good news is that I'll be launching the third and final video in the next couple days, where I will specifically discuss what you can do to improve those two areas, your value-adding lean processes, and of course, at the same time, yourself as a valuable lean designer. So see you next time.